Hey everyone, welcome back to Oh That Girl Reads, where we read what we love and DNF the rest. I am your host, Freya, and today I have a special guest, Terreece M. Clarke. She is a best-selling author, as well as a journalist, and she has a current series, A Courageous Love, and her recent book has been Chaser. So, Terreece, welcome. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, thank you for being here. I'm so excited. Do you want to start off by just telling like a little bit about yourself, a little bit about the Courageous Love series?
Sure. So, I have been a freelance journalist since I'm gonna date myself 99. Um, and I wrote a children's book a couple of years ago and kind of thought that was going to be my next path. And then in the midst of kind of promoting that, um, these characters came to me and they kind of wouldn't let me go. And so they ended up becoming the first set of characters from Heartbeat, which is the first novel in the Courageous Love series. Um, and it's a 5 book series. We're 3 books in. And it's about Black women finding they're all very accomplished and ambitious and, really have solid head on their shoulders. But this is stories about them finding themselves in extraordinary circumstances. And in those extraordinary circumstances, they find extraordinary love.
Oh, I love that. I love that it also centers around Black women. I feel like now we're really starting to get more of that in the publishing industry and just even like indie authors like pursuing their own work. And in my research of you, because I had to go in, right? I believe it was an interview with Ohio State University where you were doing a project. I believe it was just about Black joy. And so I'm
Oh, well,
curious,
I
like,
haven't seen that video.
oh, you haven't?
I haven't.
it's,
I was never
it's,
recording it. They used my work, the children's book. They used
yeah.
they had a whole series of different arts, but I never found the video. Like I kept reminding myself to go look for it, but never saw it. So that's awesome that
Oh,
you found it. So I'll
yeah. I'll shoot you the link. It's on YouTube. That was like one of the first two that popped up when
oh,
I
get
typed in your
out.
name. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Okay. That's so funny.
That is so funny. Oh my gosh. Well, I love that I found that. I really enjoyed listening to like your thoughts and perspective on it. And it made me wonder, like, when you're writing, like, how did you approach kind of the balance between kind of having your characters have really deep, painful past histories, but also like experiencing joy as like throughout their journeys?
I wanted to give my characters what I didn't always see. Um, now, because Heartbeat was written I finished it up like 2016, 2017, but I didn't publish it until last year. Um, but at the time, it was a lot of either or, right? It was either great joy or great pain. And I wanted to show that there was more to us in the range, in the middle. You know what I mean? That it's not always one or the other, and be a little more. And I say realistic, but I mean it is a romance novel, so um, a little more realistic to the actual lives that we lead, and we lead lives at that sometimes seem, and this is for all humans, that sometimes seems contradictory, but in times of pain, there's still times of joy. Um, yeah, I mean, you cannot have one without the other. And each one makes you appreciate the other. And with pain, it may take some time to learn those lessons from it and appreciate fully what you've gone through. But yeah, there's more to us than just, how hard it is to be black and how hard it is to be a woman. And, there's more to us than that. And I enjoy reading about women who are like the women that are in my life. You know what I mean? So, all of my girlfriends are accomplished and hilarious and really know themselves. And, but they also get into some insane shenanigans. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They have these adventures, and I wanted to see that reflected. I think there's room enough for everything. I think there's room enough for stories that dive deep into that pain and the journey through, and there's room enough for just absolute fluff and everything in between. And I think it's great that not just myself but a lot of authors are um, putting themselves out there, but also taking charge and making sure that our stories are told in all of the variety and depth and light that there is.
Yeah, definitely. I like that you mentioned fluff because I'm a real fluff girl. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I need I
Listen,
need
you
my
need
real.
a palate cleanser, right? Like
Yes,
some things you hit that are really, really hard, and then you're like, okay, I need some fluff, some fun. And I mean, that's
yes.
whether it's movies, books, music, all of that.
Yeah. And I feel like there's also kind of like a big discussion in the book community now about like, black romances being viewed in a particular way. Like
Mhm.
it's always about the struggle of, or, there's some involvement about like, our race and society and how we deal with that.
Mhm.
But what I kind of liked about like your book Chaser, which of course I'm the person who reads like the most current book and then doesn't read the first book in the whole series. I don't know why I do that. I constantly do it. I don't mean to. So I still have to read Heartbeat.
Right, right. That's cool. It works. They're pretty much
Yeah.
standalones. So you're good.
Yes. Yeah. Luckily enough, it was written that way. But if it wasn't, I would have been like, oh, this happened to me before. But I really liked in Chaser where it was like, Shayla, she is this black woman and existing as a black woman and moving throughout her community and society as a black woman, but it's not in a way that's so, I don't know, it's just like an acknowledgement, but at the same time, it's not um, disregard, like not simplified. I don't know what words I'm trying to use right now,
I,
but
it's but that's how we live our lives, right? I think the perception for those outside of us is that we spend all of this time thinking about white folks, thinking about our place in the world among white folks, and whatever, and being black. It just is. It is breathing.
yes.
It is who we are. So, I mean, not to bust anybody's bubbles, but we don't spend a lot of time thinking about you. You know what I mean? Like, I think folks um, attribute too much importance to themselves when you live with something, whether it's um, your upbringing or your cultural background or your race or disability or what have you. When you live with it, you live with it. It's a part of who you are. So the adaptations that you have and that you do, or the different, I don't know, ways you go about your life, because of, despite of those things, it just is. It's like breathing. You know what I mean? You've got eyeballs and you blink. You know what I mean? And if something flies in your eye, you recognize your eye. You know what I mean? So,
Right.
yeah, I try to acknowledge the truth of what it means to be a black woman in this world, in this society. Um, but that is not our 24/7, not situation, because we black every day, right? But it's not
Right.
an all-consuming thing. Even those who among us who, because I do some DEI work, that is work. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? But there is life outside of that. There's family, there's friends, there's shopping, there's, vegging out on the couch. So, um, again, I think too often folks are quick to kind of um, put these boxes on what our experiences are and should be, or what they're expecting them to be.
Right.
And I'm all about, again, showing like the breadth and depth of our experiences. And again, nothing wrong for those who focus on that, because all of that work is important. It really is.
Mhm.
But there's room enough for everything. So,
Yeah, I definitely did. I like what you said about it just kind of being like a breath, an experience. And you're right. Like when I'm in my day to day life, like I don't really think about my struggles, right? But there are moments where it's like, oh yeah, I am black and I am experiencing life as a black person. But there are
right,
like other moments so where it's like, oh, I'm just like shopping in a mall or like I'm in a restaurant.
right,
It's like,
right.
things like that. And I feel like that really does come across like in your writing as well. It's like this is
Yeah.
how I'm
When I
just
hop in the car,
experiencing.
I don't say I'm hopping into the car as a black woman, but I do say I'm going through this particular neighborhood and I know that I need to be careful. You know what I mean? And then
Exactly.
I get
Yeah.
to the neighborhood or whatever, and then I'm back to thinking about whatever it is that I was thinking about before. So it's you just I don't know how to explain it. If you know, you know. If you're among us, you understand.
Hmm.
It's just what you do. And so yeah, I think, and then plus, black romances just get black romances in real life and in media really get a bum rap. Again, because I think people want folks outside the community want to see um, certain things, or
Hmm.
they're comfortable in seeing us in certain positions and in certain situations. When, excuse me, I am so sorry.
Oh, you're
There's
totally
more
fine.
to us than that, and the onus is on them to recognize that.
Hmm.
But it's funny because people will talk about struggle, love, and crime, and all of that in relationships to black romances, but they talk about that as if they don't read mafia romance. And what is mafia romance but the same thing except a different culture? So whether
Huh.
it's Russian mob, Italian mob, or what have you, it's still guns, drugs, sex, violence, the head guy and then, the chick or whoever he falls in love with. All you're doing is swapping out cultures and language. So,
Yeah.
it's real easy, it seems, for other folks for folks to adapt to those things, but feel some kind of way adapting to ours. So I think that's interesting. And that maybe those people need to have some introspective as to why. But
Hmm.
no, our stuff is good. Bump them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so funny because I've never connected the dots. I mean, like, for me too, like, I don't tend to read like mafia romances and things like that.
Hmm.
I'm not much of a dark reader unless
Hmm.
it's like in terms of the romance space.
Right.
Um, so that never occurred to me, but that is a very much a real thing
Hmm.
too.
Yeah. I mean, even, movies. Everybody loves Godfather and what's the other one? Tony Montana, which for some reason people keep thinking is a how to run a drug business. I'm like, he dies in the end. He dies. His best friend is dead. He loses his girl. Like, that's not a how to. He was like successful for like 6 months and then flamed out. That is not longevity. But anyway, um, there's no difference between that and like Belly or any of the other kind of, you know, uh, gangsta as lifestyle. So it's
Hmm.
really about perspective and then again expectations, right?
Hmm.
but it's not up to us to justify, define, or advocate for, you know, um, it's up to us to tell our stories that we want to tell as truthfully or fantastically as we want to. Because, I mean, there are Black romances in every subgenre, whether it's
Mhm.
white shoes or mafias slash crime boss to, monster love and fairies and vampires. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's we have a variety of experiences. So
Right. Yeah. I'm excited to see us kind of like expanding into different, subgenres as well. Like I recently read
yeah,
like, a black hockey romance and I was like,
right,
wow, I was not interested in hockey romances until they made it black.
right, right, right.
So,
What's
yeah.
that meme? What's sexier in Black? The penis.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there are writers now, and I think because of TikTok, because of social media, we're able to kind of get the word out about it.
Mhm.
But I mean, just about every genre, from dark, like I said, to fluff, to everything in between. So it's a really cool time to be a reader.
Mhm. It really is. It's like super exciting. I'm like interested in your experience with like promoting your own books on social media, particularly TikTok, because that's how I found you.
Mhm.
Um, you're killing it, by the way. Are you doing everything by yourself?
I am, and I'm exhausted.
I bet.
I am, and
I
I'm
was
exhausted.
like, I was
It's
like, Terese needs to teach me how to do this because I don't.
but it is a lot. It is tiring, and I can tell you directly, I see direct results from my efforts in page reads, particularly for KU.
Mhm.
Um, so if I don't feel like it, I totally see it. You know what I mean? So if I take off a couple of days, I see my numbers go down, and I'm like, ooh, no, no, no. So it's a powerful motivation because, like I said,
Yeah.
it's directly connected, and it's so interesting to see a social media tool that is as powerful as TikTok. I was not in publishing back when the promotion for was mainly through Facebook and Facebook groups and Facebook ads, so I don't have any comparison to that. Um, but it is almost like running ads where you can directly see, okay, your ad has started, it's converting, and it's the same way with TikTok. And so it's definitely a lot more effort, I think, than ads. There's kind of a formula to it. um,
Hmm.
but TikTok, as you know, the algorithm can be um, skewed
Don't
towards
say it like that.
certain communities and books.
Hmm.
So there's always that, and I always wonder, because there's folks that are doing way better than I am, um, that are of color, um, and I watch, like their rankings and stuff on booksellers to see how they're doing, and I'm like, if the barriers in the algorithm didn't exist, how much more successful would they be? Um, so that's a question that kind of gives me a lot of pause, because you can definitely see where there's a difference in effort and a difference in um, not support, but just I wish if we were going to do things algorithmically, that it would be set up to be unbiased.
Hmm.
So, but not just,
Yeah.
anecdotally, and some folks have really drilled down into it, and it simply is it there is an intrinsic bias um in the algorithm. So that's unfortunate, because there are great stories that people aren't finding
Hmm.
because of it.
Yeah, and there's so much to say about that too, because like the algorithm is I don't know. I'm not going to pretend that I understand how it works because it also seems super obscure at the same time. But it's going to depend on, like, you know, what the masses are appealing to. But then the masses have like internalized biases, and you know, so they're gearing towards like certain content and things like
Right.
that. And so that's always going to be the content that prevails because someone looks a certain way or because the content itself is, targeted to a certain audience.
Right. Right.
That's
I mean, but even
yeah.
when you put depending, so like there are white content creators who have come out and said, their content on average,
Mhm.
excuse me, including, when Facebook has, or not Facebook, TikTok has its dips, average this number of views per video. If they put hashtag black romance or hashtag diverse romance or any of those kind of cultural hashtags, views dip immediately. And it's not also because, people are not interested in the content, because the content hasn't changed. It's still that person talking
Mhm.
about books, but because the only thing that is different is the hashtag. That's more algorithm versus people just scrolling away. So it's
Yeah.
interesting. I mean, there are a lot of different factors in place, right? So there's um and I don't know, I have not seen a specific tell for this, but there was like discussions of ageism and how one author said they couldn't get signed because they were told they were too old for TikTok. Yeah, I don't get it. I can see it, maybe that they, depending on looks, and then you've got pretty privilege and that sort of thing. Like, I
Mhm.
don't hop on TikTok rarely now anymore without like full face, just because I I'm promoting a product. I'm promoting myself as an author. I would love to be able to just hop on and be, real and chill all the time. But I noticed the dips in my, direct result. Like, oh, I didn't have any eyebrows on today. It didn't go well. Or, the red lip wasn't red lipping. So, um, I mean, like I said, there are a lot of biases. I
Mhm.
just wish we were only dealing with human biases versus those human biases then written into the code or whatever.
Into
So,
the code. Yeah.
but
That is a
overall, I will say it has been great for building community, great for
Mhm.
finding other authors, great for finding other readers, um, great for just like exposing. And I wish I hadn't like resisted it for so long, because I worked in social media for doing some client work, and just it was like a burnout. It's like, I don't need another channel. You know what I
That
mean?
was me too. I resisted TikTok so hard for the podcast, and
Oh gosh. I was like, I don't need anything else. And then when, the kids are trying to get me on, I'm like, I don't want to, why do I need to get on that to watch a bunch of little kids dance? I mean, that's cool for you guys, have fun. But it was one of those times that I missed the trend. Usually I'm a little ahead of the curve, but I missed it because I was like, no, I'm tired. I don't want to see nothing. I don't want to check another thing. I don't want any more notifications. Um,
literally.
but it is an amazing community, despite the drama or in spite of it. I don't know. It depends on the day.
Oh my gosh. I'm like surprised. I think about it all the time. I'm like, back in the booktube days, there
Mhm.
wasn't drama like this. And if there
Yeah,
was, it was very interpersonal, like
right,
between like two individuals just having beef because they're having beef and it
right,
just happens to be on the same platform. Whereas
right.
like now it's like people are acting up every single week. Some
Yeah,
author is yelling at some reviewer, like,
yeah. Oh my gosh,
oh my gosh,
it's
like
wild. It's
I,
wild,
I
and
don't.
there is no, even with YouTube, there's a moment, right? So you have to record the video, and you have
Right.
to check over the video, and then you have to upload the video, and so there's a process. Um,
Right.
but TikTok, is instantaneous. All you have to do is hit record and hit send, really. You know what I mean? There's
Mhm.
no, you don't have to edit it if you don't want to. But there's definitely much fewer barriers. So there's fewer moments to give you moments to say, should you be posting this? Should you be posting this? For that other, like more sensible part of your brain to kick in and say,
Right.
I don't know about that one.
I
So,
think a lot of people need accountability buddies, like who
hmm.
are on social media. Like,
Yeah, but they reach out. I know they reach out to their friends, and their friends are like, "Yeah, post it." I mean, you got to know which friend is
no, you got to get brutal people.
right. You got your ride or dies who think everything you do is awesome. You got your ride or dies who are a little more level, and it's like, okay, listen, crazy lady, stop. And then you've got the your business minded or even mentors who are like, okay, here are the drawbacks of that.
Yeah.
Because everybody doesn't have PR experience. Everybody doesn't have a PR team. Um, so that analysis doesn't come as natural to some people as it does to those of us who have worked in media for a while. So and you can see what they're going for. You can see where they thought it was going to go, what their end goal was. It just, ooh. And I feel so bad, I'm like, I see where you thought this was going to be of help.
Hmm.
And
You just need, you needed to read that back to
but
someone else or play that back to
with
someone else.
yourself, right? I mean, anything from the way you're presenting yourself to the words, literally the words that you say to the pauses. I mean, people can sniff out BS so much faster nowadays.
Hmm.
Um, because we're interacting with each other all the time, and because again, these reaction videos are so quick and so instant, um, that people have a sense of who's genuine, and if what you're saying doesn't match the vibe, and I know that's the art to PR, right? If what you're saying doesn't match the vibe of what you're trying to portray, like if you're saying humble words, but your vibe is not giving humble, people pick up on that.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's something else. I don't talk about anybody by name or anything, because you just never know when you're going to be on the other side, right? So
Yeah.
I just leave that alone and go, ooh. Well, I'll be in the DMs though. Like, girl, did you see?
That's also something that I kind of had to I guess talk to myself about when I started the podcast and things like that. I was like,
Yeah,
oh, am I going to be talking about every single piece of drama that happens in like the book space or the book
right,
community? Is
right,
that something that I want to continue on doing, or if that's something that fits in what my mission is for this? And I
right.
had to have a real talk with myself and be like, no, and it might not benefit you to be commenting on like every single thing that's happening. And
Exactly.
yeah, and realizing sometimes you don't have the range to
Mm,
comment on something or the
absolutely.
knowledge and background to do so is
Absolutely.
like,
And that's okay.
yeah.
You can
Hmm.
have a personal opinion without publicly expressing it.
Yeah. I feel like that's not really a practice anymore.
Oh no. Everybody is like buttholes. Everybody's got an opinion. Um, and everyone feels validated a lot of times because you do curate your own social media. Um, so what you're seeing in the algorithm isn't necessarily the truth of what reality is. It is what has been curated for you, or what you've curated by your interactions. And so where you think you might be mainstream on something or in the majority of rightness, nah, you're just in the echo chamber. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, but it feels good to think that either you're an expert on something, or you're smart about this thing, or um, that what you think matters, which it does to people who love and care about you, but the world at large, for the most part, don't give a shit. So you know
Mhm.
again, you don't have to weigh publicly in. I will say this: as you're building your platform,
Mhm.
there are people who have made a really, you know, large platform, engaged platform based off the drama, whether they're involved directly or whether they're commentating on the drama or sharing the drama. The thing with that is it's almost like Pac, right? You build your reputation on gangsta and kind of veer away from how Tupac started off, basically as a poet with a lot to say about the condition of society. But you veer off to what's popular and what's hidden and what gets the reaction and the emotion. It will come back to get you as well.
Mhm.
So any misstep where you might have had some grace tends to be met with the same amount of firepower that you used when you were on the opposite side of, or on outside looking in on someone else's controversy. So
Mm.
yeah, I've seen that too, where it comes back and it gets you.
Yeah.
When you're always in the mess, it's kind of hard to stay above and out of the mess. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's really real. And so, okay, so it sounds like you've had like a lot of experience like with social media like throughout the years.
Oh, yeah, social media
Yeah.
and PR, and I've
Yeah.
worked a lot of. It's interesting when I look back. I used to think I was unfocused,
Hmm.
because I've worked a variety of kinds of positions and different clients, alongside always doing this freelance writing. But I'm a storyteller at heart, and so it just takes on whatever form that is needed for a particular client, right?
Mhm.
So whether it's PR work, you're still telling a story. You're telling the product or the person or the company's story. With social media, that really is all about storytelling. It's just supposed to be truthfulness in storytelling, right? And being one on one, or as close to one on one as you can be with people without, like, formal media presentation. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So yeah, I've been around the block a little while.
Is that like, is the social media part like something that you enjoy with your writing, or is that something like one day you kind of want to pass off to somebody else as like,
It's a mixture. I think the promotion part, I'm definitely looking to pass off at this point,
mhm.
because it just takes, for me, it takes a lot of time. Um, I would rather someone else like produce it. I see it, that looks good, go on with it. But I do still like interacting with folks and that community aspect, and seeing parts of their lives, that doesn't necessarily is a part of what my particular focus is. Like I'm about books and that sort of thing. But man, I love seeing people's like kids and their pets and their families. And I'm like, oh my god, are they in third grade? Never met the kid in my entire life, but but I'm
Look how pretty
invested. You know what I'm saying?
they are. Yeah,
Robin Reeds, she's getting married. Never met that woman before in my
I
life.
know.
But I'm invested. I'm like, okay. She's like, she's gonna do her own hair. I'm like, are you sure, girl? I don't know. It's a stressful day. I'm telling you. I don't know. Again, I'm not going to the wedding. I wish the best, but I'm invested. And what makes it so
I
bad,
feel
I feel like I have some kind of, and maybe it's just everybody is like this, but I feel like I have some sort of facial recognition issue, because I'll know people will talk every week on Facebook or something. But then if I see them out at the grocery store, I'm like, is that them? I don't know. Should I say something? I
Yeah.
don't know.
No, that's me.
But
I'm
I'm
like,
like,
I know you, but I don't.
right, right. So, or it's been like 20 years, right? So I'm like,
Yeah.
I can't even tell. So, but I also don't want to be that jerk. Like I saw her at, Walmart and she didn't say anything. Believe me, I'm
Yes.
agonizing over it. So don't think, don't think it's me being, high post. It's not. I'm just
No. I promise you, I'm just standing there overthinking. And once one thought,
overthinking.
it's
Yes.
just gonna spiral. It's gonna keep going.
Yeah, yeah. I will make like a about face, like a 180, just be like, nope, I don't know if that's them. I don't want to be awkward. So I'm gonna go back to the frozen food and just hide. But I love you. Can't wait to see those first day of school pics.
I hate when it turns into the stare off though. Like you're like staring and then you're just both looking at each other.
And then you're like, who's the adult
I know.
and saying,
Like
hey.
like who's not gonna be the weird one?
Right, exactly. It's almost as bad as when someone's waving or they're talking and they've got a Bluetooth in or something, or they're waving, they're not waving at you. The person
Oh
behind
my
you.
gosh.
It feels almost along those lines where it feels much more public than
Oh my gosh.
it is. Good. I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Yeah, no. Definitely not.
Oh,
No. But it's so true. Like, okay. I love like the connection that everyone kind of has now, like between like reader and author. I think
yeah,
sometimes it gets a little like, oh, I
yeah.
wish we didn't have this connection, but
It can get a little wild.
it can
Yeah.
get a little weird sometimes. But like, how do you kind of maintain boundaries like with your readers and like within the community that you've been building up?
Well, um, on incoming, I don't know. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know if my boundaries have been tested as far as readers coming to me. And that could be because I'm basically, even though I've been writing for a lot of years, I'm still a baby author. So, the platform is not huge and there's not like people stalking my house or something like that. So I haven't had any of those kind of interactions. So I'm really still very open and excited and a bit puppy doggish. When folks reach out, I'm like, "Oh." I'm a complete dork. I kid you not. I try to be cool. I fail every time. So 2 a.m. DMs and that sort of thing doesn't bother me. One, because I mean I control my phone. If I don't want to hear anything, I just put it on do not disturb. So, but I usually love those 2 a.m. DMs because that's somebody who cannot go to sleep because they have to keep reading. And then what they have read has evoked enough of a reaction to them. They're like, oh, hell no. Let me disturb this lady. What was she thinking? And how did you do this to me? I love it. It cracked me up. It's like the highlight of my evening. So that has not gotten old, and I hope it never does. But as
Oh.
far as like me trying to make sure I respect the boundaries of my readers, I read every review, like everyone that I find. I read them all. And including the negative ones. There are a lot of authors who don't do that, but I think I'm coming at it from a different perspective or experience because I have been a journalist for so long.
Mhm.
It's really kind of par for the course for people not to like your stuff.
Yeah.
And even among like the training to be a journalist, at least when I was in school, was pretty cutthroat, cut and dry, and like if you misspelled someone's name, that's an instant zero. You would read your article in front of the class, or they would read it and pick it apart. You know what I mean? So you kind of, and
Mhm.
the editors are insane, so you kind of get used to that feedback, whether positive, negative, criticism, or critique. So when I see my reviews, I'm looking at it from that angle, right? Like I'm
Mhm.
excited about the ones who enjoy it, but I look for specific things like what is it about that you enjoyed and that sort of thing, and try not to weigh it so much where I think my poop doesn't stink, of course. And then
Mhm.
with the negative ones, I'm just like, not every book is for everybody.
Mhm.
Some things that I come across, I'm like, okay, well, that's a good point. I didn't think of it that way, or that was a different perspective than what I saw coming, which is something. When you put art out there, you never know. Once you put it out there, it is out there for people to interpret. You
Mhm.
have what you are trying to say, but how it's received and how their lens that they view is usually something completely different than what you expected. And I think that's the beauty of it. Um, but I try not, so I read the reviews, I do not reply unless someone specifically says something to me or adds me or something like that,
Mhm.
or tags me. When I send out books for review, my only request is that it's honest. It does not have to be a stellar review. If you DNF'd it, that's fine. Just let me know. Like, like if they're a part of my art team, let me know.
Mhm.
So I'm not following up like, hey, you're like,
What did you think? They're like,
right,
I'm
right.
avoiding confrontation.
Let's not do that.
Yeah.
It makes it awkward for you, makes it awkward for me.
Mhm.
So I try not to, I don't put any parameters on anybody that I send it out to. Influencers, if they love it, awesome. If it's just okay, okay. Um, but I try. I used to say, "Let me know what you think,"
Mhm.
and then I realized that's pressure because then they're like,
Mhm.
"Ooh, what if I didn't?" You know what I mean? What if I
Yeah.
didn't like it, or what if I haven't gotten to it? I don't want to put that on anybody. It's again, it's entertainment. It's my livelihood, but this is for your consumption. So how you when you take it in is totally up to you and it's totally okay. Now, I will say some people are not fair.
Oh.
So I think someone called me stupid, like just off
Oh.
because there's a point in Heartbeat where she discusses, um, with one of my characters discusses not wanting their child to be extraordinarily wealthy, like just over the top with all of this extra, all this money. And what is it going to be like to raise a child who can have whatever they want at their fingertips?
Mhm.
And they called me a complete idiot because who wouldn't want their child to be obscenely wealthy? I was like, okay, well, we can disagree. You don't have to call me names, dang.
Yeah.
But again, it was more funny than anything. Now it drives my husband crazy. He gets upset. It doesn't bother me
Oh
though.
yeah.
I it's humorous, and I still appreciate,
Mhm.
even if you didn't like it, you taking the time to say something about it. Even if you absolutely hated it, which there are a couple of people who have absolutely hated one or both, books in the series, or maybe not all three. I don't know. I don't think so. But they'll come back and be like, "Yeah, I hated this one too."
Oh my god.
I was like, "All right." I appreciate you
Thanks.
being consistent and either buying the book or giving me the page reads regardless. I mean, I got my money.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for your support.
You're
I
right.
it was so funny.
Still must be
I
doing
was
something to give you that much of a reaction, right?
exactly. I think
So
that's still something that's like
yeah,
going right, you know what I'm
yeah, it's
saying?
it's
Like,
a, it's a win-win either way.
yeah. I think
So
it's so I was trying to there was a big discussion about like 3-star reviews and like how this one author was angry about like a 3-star.
I
And
saw
I'm
that.
like I love giving 3-star reviews because it's not one because star reviews don't really mean anything to me.
No,
Like But I love 3 stars for me personally because, I was a English literature major. That
Hmm.
means I wrote like pages and pages and
Yeah.
pages. And that means I
Mhm.
had the most fun because I was analyzing everything, I was annotating everything. I
Yeah.
had dynamic things to say.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, honestly, I think those like lower star ratings, I guess, are kind of rewarding in a sense because it's like they still
Well,
gave you the
yeah.
time and they're giving you the feedback to grow. But
You
maybe that's also kind of like a
you haven't lived
journalistic
until you've
thing.
gotten your first 1 star. You know, seriously, like when you put out a book and it's all 5 stars, first of all, I mean, awesome if it is. Man,
Mhm.
listen, if you have written a 5 star book from everyone's perspective, I am rooting for you to get on Oprah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But as varied as there are people who read, um, the lower star reviews give you validity. You know what I mean? Like, it looks a little less like your mom and your best friends have been leaving reviews for your book.
Exactly.
Now from business perspective is always helpful, to have your book highly rated,
Mhm.
but it's also, I would say, equally as important to just have engagement. So, if you've got, like, I think Heartbeat's averaging like 4.6 out of 5 right now, with
Mhm.
500 plus, like 544 reviews.
Oh,
I
sweet.
value both ends. You know what I mean? I value the 4 out of 5, or 4.6 out of 5. I feel like a 5-year old. I'm five and a half. Gotta put that half on there. Gotta put that 0.6. But I also value that 544 folks, again, got finished and then took the time to leave that review. So,
Mhm.
or rating, whatever. So business wise, those things matter. But I mean, and then, you have to take it with a grain of salt because everyone has their own scale of what works for them, right? So it's not a standardized practice. We're not all operating off of the same rubric. Even spice levels, I thought Chaser was about a solid 4, maybe 4.5. And someone else reviewed was like, yeah, I read really dark things. So it was like a 2. I was like, God, dang, no judgment. But I want to know what you're reading. I'm like, the refrigerator didn't bump it up to a 3. We
For me, it was like every time there was a drink involved, I was like,
every time. Listen, that last one when her family was there and she was messing around thinking she was going to get away with it, and
Mhm.
basically he, what did that say, squat and cough, and I was like, okay, now I think I might have gone too far. I was like, did I just write that in a book for public consumption? Like, that might be a little much. And
No.
nobody, literally, for like months, no one brought it up. And I'm like, maybe I took it out. I went back to look. Like, no, it's still there. So how I don't know, how mild, I guess, is that compared to everything else, where it's not even a blip. And here I was, like, cheeks
You're like blushing.
exactly, totally blushing, sliding over to my editor, and my husband reads my books first, sliding over to him like, all right, I don't know about this one. Meanwhile, folks is like, that's Tuesday. Like, all right.
Oh, oh my gosh.
I was tripping. She was like, yeah, it's like a 2, 2.5. I was like,
I
oh,
also kind of wonder if that has to do with quantity too. I don't
it could be.
know.
It could be.
Yeah.
It could be.
Yeah. Because I
Well,
noticed like some books that have like really intense like
yeah,
quality
yeah.
like spice scenes, they're like rated as like a two or a three. And I'm
Right.
like, I was sweating like reading this. What do you mean?
I was
And it's
just
like,
touching this around like
yeah,
and then you have some like, every 3 pages they getting in and I'm like, hurrah,
yeah.
I'm excited for you. But yeah, I was like, oh my, okay. And I'm not gonna
Oh
keep
my
trying to
gosh.
outdo myself or anything. It has to be natural. So
Right. Do
yeah,
you,
it's funny.
so how am I going to word this question? Because I just had three questions come into my brain at one time. That was so crazy. Um, but how do you feel about like navigating like the independent like publishing route? Like, was that something that you knew you just like wanted to directly do and like have that control?
Yeah, so I did. My children's book was traditionally published. So I went through that process and enjoyed it. There were things that I thought I wanted to have more knowledge about.
Mm-hmm.
The understanding the whys and the how tos, which they weren't necessarily, and I recognize that they weren't necessarily a part of the experience for them to kind of like walk me through that. There were other things that I kind of wanted to have control over as far as like just, inventory. And I was left with a lot of the marketing. And I was like, okay, well, if I'm doing all of this, do I really need to pay you? So, but there are perks, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
with standard issue for a publisher, like sending it out to Publishers Weekly and that sort of thing, um, there's less reception for an indie to do that. Plus, there's like the street cred for being traditionally published, so that was cool. Um, but for Heartbeat, I had given it to a couple of my traditionally published author friends, and they were, loved it, and you know, wanted to bring it to their agents, and they were like, "But you're gonna have to really, really cut it." And Heartbeat, she's a thickums. She's 400 or 546 pages, and there was just things I just didn't want to cut. I wanted those in there. They may be not gratuitous, but um, slice of life things that could have been left out, but that I thought made the story a little more rich and kind of brought you really into these folks' lives. So I knew I didn't want to cut certain things, and they were going to make me cut. And also, I just wanted to see if I could do it. I wanted to see if I could do it from beginning to end. And I had no expectations, which is what's great with your first book. I had no expectations. I had some goals, but um, I didn't have any parameters as far as like deadlines. And with indie, if something's not quite working, you can go in and fix it. I had complete control over cover and all of that, so all of that appealed to me. And I just really wanted to see if I could do it. Could I, make this book from beginning to end the best that I could make it? And could I use my marketing background and skills and connections to kind of get it where I wanted it to be? And my initial goal was if I sell 100 copies, that's going to be awesome. I know at least all of my friends and family, right? That who are going to support anyway. You've got folks who high five from the side, but they're not going to buy nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And folks who maybe share your post, that's free. But I knew I could get a solid 100 people to buy a print copy of this book. And then once it went beyond that, I was like, okay, we may have something. Um, so yeah, it was a challenge. I wanted to see if I can do it. Will I keep doing it? I don't know because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and I like my main thing is to write. That's where my passion is. I love looking at the analytics on the back end, like seeing how things are doing and um, what post drives more sales than others. So I love that part, but the day to day spreadsheet situation, cataloging or detailing, or just the admin work,
Hmm.
I can live without that
Yeah.
now. I've done it. I've had my toes, fingers and toes in it, and I'm ready to pass that on. Um,
Yeah.
I do have a goal to have a romance traditionally published. Again, just to say and show that I can. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I just want to. That's just one of those goals. Like I wanted to hit number one in my category for certain books and in a certain amount of time, and so they're part of the goals that keep me interested in the business side of it, because I'm always going to be interested in the creative side of it.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's fun. It is a lot of work though. There's a lot of
Yeah.
P's and I's and T's crossing, and you're like, oh.
Yeah. And I imagine that kind of really impacts like your writing time, doesn't it? Because you're taking up so much time
Yeah, it
doing all
does.
the,
It does.
yeah.
And then I'm not necessarily. I'm still trying to get into the groove of what it is to spend time on this, right? And the
Hmm.
balance of it all. So I'll get lost in the marketing part for a day, a whole day, just gone, you know,
Hmm.
and then realize I have not written a single word. And because romance is the way it is, there's a certain amount of output that I want to keep up with,
Hmm.
that I have not gotten to that goal yet. So I thought I was going to do the whole series in a year. I thought a book a quarter, bam to bam to bam, we're going to be great. That
Hmm.
is not what happened. I realized that I need downtime. And so this, again, being a new author, I'm learning what it means to like produce consistently, on the scale that I'm producing. Because articles, like I thought it was going to be like articles, so
Yeah.
I know my process for that, right? It is completely different. It is completely different. And so making that, and there's an emotional piece that I did not factor in.
Hmm.
Again, articles are reporting of the facts, right? And so you build a story around it, but it's not, I think, as at least the things that I was doing. There are articles that weigh on the writers, on the journalists as they produce them. That was not really where my main work was. So this is emotionally heavy. This is building from your own brain, from your world. You're not taking in information and then reinterpreting it for others to understand. This is
Hmm.
you creating the whole thing. And that has an emotional weight to it that I did not realize.
Yeah.
And so when I'm finished with a book or a project, there is an amount of time where I need to kind of like break from that. And I didn't realize I was going to need that. And I couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. Like, why? You know what I mean? Like, why can't I?
Yeah.
What am I doing wrong? Or why am I not focused? Or whatever. And then it kind of just like slowly dawned on me like, genius, you need a break. Calm the hell down. I was like, okay.
So
um,
once you realized you needed a break, like what does your like break look like? What does your post writing routine kind of?
um, and I don't know how far the break is from the writing process or from the editing process.
Oh, true. Because I
Because
guess you're not
the
done until
no,
you gotta
no.
get your edits in.
Yeah, and then my silly self, again thinking you think you know what you know until you find out you don't know it. Um, a book a quarter. These are my deadlines and all of this, and it was creating so much stress and anxiety, because I set some pretty unrealistic deadlines for me right now where I am. And
Hmm.
so by the time you get done with the editing process and you're running to beat that finish line, because I hate disappointing readers. I hate saying this date and then I have to move it, and I've had to do that several times across
Mhm.
the last two books. Um, that you've just pressed so hard to get everything done,
Mhm.
um, that you really want to pass out, but you can't, because then the promotion starts, right? So you
Oh
go
yeah.
one job to the next. You're promoting the whole time. But really, once that hits, that first month is, social media and podcasting and taking pictures of your books all over the place and watching the numbers and all of that. But that post um, publishing, marketing, even though you keep marketing, but that initial push cycle, it's been different depending on the book. Um, but a lot of just like schlumping, um, reconnecting with my family where I'm not growling and saying, leave me alone, I'm writing, um, or throwing things because I'm editing and something's come back and I'm like, damn it, I thought we were done. Um, just take it the way it is. Dang it, I'm finished. I ain't doing nothing else. Um, so yeah, reconnecting with my family in a fun, unstressed way. I write by post-it, and they're all on my window. So when I
Mhm.
finished, I take down all of the post-its and put it in the binder that my final edits are in, because I print it out and do my final edits from there. I put all the post-its in there. I label the binder. I close the binder. I put that away. And the whole time that I'm taking down the post-its, I'm thinking about the process and what all dramatics I've been through or whatever,
Mhm.
and just trying to be grateful in that moment that I had those and that I've gotten to the other side. So I do a whole kind of like gratitude thing where, thank you for this, and I'm thankful for that, and prayerful for other things. And I think that kind of helps um, close the door on it and resets my brain. Um, and usually I take myself out to eat or something.
Yeah,
Like
that's
I deserve
beautiful.
this.
I literally every time something upsetting happens, I'm like, I need a little treat, a little
Oh,
sugar.
absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
deserve it. I survived.
Absolutely. Exactly. Shoot. My husband used to walk around, because I was always talking about I needed to treat myself with some chocolate or something. He would walk around with Ferrero Rochers in his pocket and like
Yeah.
give them to me like Scooby snacks. I'm like, I am so offended. I'm gonna eat it though.
That's just love.
You know what I'm saying? I was like, I feel like you're, giving me doggy treats, but also I'm gonna eat it because it's my favorite. You win. It's like the Lorax. He likes marshmallows. Do you remember? Have you seen them?
Yeah.
If I'm gonna eat it, I'm highly offended, but I'm gonna eat it. That's me and my little hubby Scooby snacks. So yeah,
I
yeah, no,
love that.
it's a process. It's amazing though. As much as I
Mhm.
fuss and complain and say it's not as glamorous as it looks, it's still an amazing, amazing opportunity, and I still can't believe I'm able to do this.
Yeah.
It has
Yeah.
not been no.
I heard something recently that was like, what were they saying? Basically that like when you think about like your future and like you think like, oh, like I want to be a writer someday, like you never think about like the problems that come with it, right?
Right.
But one part of like accepting that or like moving towards that goal is being okay trading your current day problems for like the problems that you'll get with having that goal. And
Yeah.
I think like if you love something so much that you're willing to deal with like the stupid shit that comes up with it,
Yeah.
it's amazing and you can't help but be grateful for it, you know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I never thought, I've always written. I used to write plays. I put on my first play when I was in second grade in Catholic school. There were kidnappings and all that sort of thing. which surprise continues to show up in my works now, right?
Yeah.
Always been dramatic, but I realized where it's from. Watching the stories with my granny,
Oh, okay.
watching this the daily soaps,
Mm-hmm.
because someone was always getting kidnapped and dying and coming back to life, and just pretend
Yes.
pregnancies, fake pregnancies. It's yours, no, it's his. All of that. So I think that kind of molded a lot of my storytelling and passion for dramatic love, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I don't know where I was going, but but yeah, it's the pain points don't matter. It's almost like having a kid. The pain points don't matter once you have it in your hands.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of there's I mean, there's sucky things about everything that you like to do. There's something that's not super awesome about it. And
Right.
that's okay. And it's okay to kind of say everything isn't as awesome. Um, because you appreciate for what it is work, and you've put in the work, and you've produced something um, as best as you can given the tools that you have at the time.
Mm-hmm.
um, and that's really, I mean, all we can ask of ourselves, and all we can ask of artists is to give what they have to give with what they got.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's
Yeah.
dope, crazy
I
but
love
dope.
that. I love that. I love it so much. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I'll round this out with one final question.
Okay.
So I don't know what podcast it was on. It was like an interview that you were doing, but you mentioned here that you were writing since the second grade. And
Mhm.
so I have to know, because I'm trying to sniff out all of the authors who have potentially done this. Have you ever written fan fiction in the years of you writing?
Um, sort of, kind of. Heartbeat
This is
kind
a
of
safe
started.
place.
Heartbeat kind of started off as a fanfic of a different book that I'd read, a different series. Also, Colorado mountain towny, mountain manish. Um, that I pitched to the author, and they were like, I don't really let people into my universe. And I was like, oh, I get it. I was like, this is still a good story. I'm gonna write it anyway. And I was like, okay, well, obviously there's a lot of things you need to change and everything.
Mhm.
Have I ever written like a full on story like based off of other folks, like, and it's published somewhere? No, I never did the Wattpad and that sort of thing. Um, I think that came at a different time. So by that point, I was really unwilling to put anything out that was not paid. Like, I was an active working journalist, so
Makes sense.
no, homegirl needed to get paid. It wasn't that passionate that I could throw out a couple dollars for it at least. I have written, ghost written, um, mm, these stories. Um, It used to be, well, there's still, it's like, like they have Fiverr and that sort of thing. But like
Mhm.
there used to be these job boards where they wanted stories or erotic stories and that sort of thing. But this, I'm assuming, gentlemen wanted stories about people who, women who were comfortable being naked in the presence of others, publicly naked, but it wasn't a salacious. It never led to sex or anything like that. They were just walking around naked. It was very particular, and it was like it literally. I think it might have been the first PayPal payment I ever got. think I'll account for that specifically. And it was very short stories. So, like, one was about a woman who the guy next door could see into her apartment, and she had gotten wet in the rain and was having a bad day. And she turned on her light and started taking off her clothes without closing the curtains. And he just admired her freedom. That was kind of the whole story. I think he might have like sent her a little note to like cheer her up. I can't remember how it all finished. And then so I got paid for that. I was like, okay, well, I'll write another one. And then the second one I wrote, I think they had an interaction, like, and he seemed interested, and he was like, oh no, that's too much. It was a very specific, I'm just gonna say a very specific kink.
Yeah. It seems both like voyeuristic and pure at the same
Right,
time.
right. It was not, they were not gonna, like do the deed or anything like that. It was just him appreciating her physical form and her being free with her physical form without it leading to anything.
Yeah. That's so
It is,
interesting.
it is different. I have never talked about that publicly. So you've got a scoop on still a
Eh.
very benign stories here. And it was, like I said, it was so interesting. And was I engaged at the time? I think I was engaged at the time. So I was telling him about it, and he was like, that sounds weird. I was like, whatever. But then I was like, my second story got rejected. It was too much.
It was too much.
It's a funny thing that we still joke about to this day. But it was very, he had a very specific, particular thing he wanted to see. And I want to say he published it like on a listserv or something like that. Um, Again, this was back in the day, so I mean, AOL was still a thing. So, but it was. I was like, and then at the time, again, I'm working as a journalist, right? So I'm like, I have got to put this under a pen name. No one can ever know. And now, I got squat and cough. So how times change and how
I know.
the F's I have to give just keep getting
I just
smaller.
disappeared.
So there, as I got a little change purse. I used to haul around a tote bag full of F's that I gave. I have a change purse. So,
Oh my goodness.
yeah, very sweet. That is the first time I've ever talked about that.
That was the best thing I've ever heard in my life. Like,
It's so specific. It was so, and I
it's
think that's what really kind of, I don't know, not threw me, but like, I don't know, it was just so specific, but again, kind of wholesome, you know?
yeah.
So, very particular cake indeed.
Yeah.
So,
I
yeah,
think that's so fascinating.
that's about the best for fan fiction that I can.
Yeah. That question revealed so much, and now I have to make sure I keep that on the interview docket.
Child, that's for you. I would look for it. I cannot remember what it was called or anything, and it's probably saved on like one of my like floppy disks somewhere. That's
Oh my
literally
gosh.
how old it was. So like 3.5 by 5. I think that's what it used to be. The little save button, basically. It's probably
Yeah.
one of those, and I still have them somewhere. I have nothing to like. I wouldn't know how to retrieve the information off of that now.
That is, I have I work with like really old cameras, and
Yeah.
so the camera shop that I go to, they like do all sorts of like converting on like really old
Oh.
like memory formats and stuff, and it's the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. I was like, how did you even find the old technology to
Right.
even be able to convert this, and then like the amount of cords that they use
Yeah,
to like
that's what I was gonna ask. Like, what does that even look like? Because
yeah.
I can't imagine because you can't connect it via Wi-Fi. So how do you convert it so you can pull it up on an old machine? But what kind of chain does it take to get it to
It's the
where it needs to
craziest
be,
looking
right?
thing.
Because I guess the best thing you can do is be on an old computer or old PC and maybe attach it to an Ethernet cord and email it to yourself. If you
Legitimately.
even connect to the net, like, yeah, that yeah. That's a
That's
lot
how
of technology, old
it
technology,
is.
kind of convert
Just
through.
attaching it to everything. So, I mean, if you ever want to recover it, that might be way to go. Just find a
Oh,
old film shop,
yeah, yeah. Who
the
knows? It's
ones
probably got
who
one of those old viruses. That's where I got. Because remember, you couldn't use other people's like floppy disks and stuff
yeah.
unless you had like the McAfee virus protection and stuff. So,
Oh my gosh, my mom used to get so mad at us because we would get all the viruses on the computers.
oh
Like it was
yeah, especially when you stealing music. Not saying that
exactly
I'm not saying
allegedly
that
stealing music.
allegedly. I've never stolen music.
Yeah, no, never.
Never,
I
never.
wouldn't even know how to do that.
Napster, LiveWire, what?
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 No, I pay 99 cents for every song I get.
Oh my
I'm an adult now. I have Apple One, so
god. Yeah. I have a Spotify subscription. Thank you.
right. So I don't understand.
Yeah.
This
Oh
has
my
been
gosh.
so
Well,
much fun.
this has been so fun. Thank you so much for coming on.
Anytime. Thank you again for having me. I don't even know if we
Yeah.
talked about the actual book, but who cares?
We did in like abstract parts, and
All right, good enough.
I need to get back. I was like in the middle of it. I was like, I kind of need to figure out how to redirect, and then, but I love how we talk. I like that. That was great.
We talk craft and life.
Yeah,
Good enough. Go read
yeah,
the book.
yeah. Go read the book. Go read all three of them. Oh, also, I mean, maybe get in Teresa's comments and convince her to do a Shayla St. Pierce novella for
About,
me.
about what? What we doing? What we doing?
I just want her
You
just
want her?
doing life. I just want her doing her.
You're a problem because I already. So the book was supposed to be 4 books, not 5. And then Love You Never came about with this little novella self. And I was like, okay, that's it. And then everybody kept saying, but what about Kane? We love Kane. He's in Chaser, but you see a lot of him in Heartbeat. And I'm like, Kane doesn't speak. Have you not noticed? Few words. How do you write a book about a man that doesn't speak? Then he showed up and told me how he expresses himself to his wife or how he got her, which is he writes letters.
Oh,
Is that not the most sweetest thing
that
ever?
is so
I
sweet.
was like, that's adorable. I hate you. So he has strictly about that part about wooing her coming out, and Biscuit somehow he's in the first book has a Kindle Vella coming, and now you're talking about you want a Shayla prequel.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Goodness, that's
I'm
like
just planting the seed.
you just playing this. No, because you
Yeah.
got kids, and then they grow, and these people show up and won't let me sleep until I start writing stuff down about. It's not fair. Man, Shayla's a trip. That would be
She's so fun.
interesting. I don't know. Maybe it'll be about her time in Tokyo.
Oh
No.
my gosh. See? Look, it started already. I'm
Yeah,
already getting what I want.
You guys are terrible. Just accept it out and call it a day. Goodness.
You're like, now I see where a boundary can be made.
I love it though. I don't complain, but I love it. The fact that you like her enough that you want to see more.
Yeah.
That's everything. That's what you
Yeah.
want. You know what I mean? As
Mhm.
opposed to, okay, that was good. Next. So
Right.
I'm glad to have built a character that kind of stays with you. So
Oh,
yeah.
yes, she's fabulous. Okay, so where can everyone find you?
So I am on social media, of course. I hang out more on TikTok now more than anything else. My socials are is my name everywhere. So at Terreece, and that's Terreece. Um, you can find me on my website, which is also my name, TerreeceClarke.com. I am finished with the summer leg of my book tour. I have one more stop at the end of this week at uh,
Woo.
Steamy Lit Con in California. And then I don't have any fall dates, and I don't know if I'm going to add any because I have to finish these last two books. My goal is to finish the last two by the end of the year. Um, let's see what else. Where else am I doing? That's it. Just find me on socials and oh, join my newsletter if you like to hear behind the scenes stuff. And I always post freebie romance books from friends and authors and that sort of thing. And yeah, buy the books, read them, love them, and share them.
Yeah. Thank you again so much for being here. And thank you everyone for tuning in. Remember to read what you love and DNF the rest. Life's too short to read bad books. And we will
Yes.
talk to you guys later. Bye.
Bye.
So long, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. If you would like to see more, you can find me on Instagram and TikTok, Oh That Girl Reads. If you want more bookish content, feel free to check out my booktube channel, Bria L, on YouTube. Remember, read what you love and DNF the rest. Bye!